Alright, what's up nerds? This video is about how much freaking protein you should eat. I'm gonna go quickly, there's a lot of information, so definitely pause at any time that you don't have enough time to read the slides. Alright, so protein is one of the 6 essential nutrient groups. The common misconception about protein is that protein is only used to build muscle mass. But protein is actually used to build other proteins. So this is how it works. So when you eat protein, it's basically a blob that's a combination of a long string of amino acids. And so that's in like a bunch of different food sources, and you consume that and digest it like any other food. And in your stomach, in your small intestine, you break it up into smaller components called amino acids. These amino acids are absorbed into your bloodstream through your small intestine, and they're transported to your cells around your body, where they're built back into new proteins. Not necessarily only muscle cells. I imply that they're only sent to muscle tissue, but every single cell in your body uses proteins. And so if you want to learn more about protein and amino acids, watch the next video. This is just going to be an overview more about the dietary aspect of it. Okay, so all new cells and tissues in your body require protein as a building block. So your cells are constantly dividing in your body, so each new cell is going to need to be creating new protein. Protein in cells is being constantly broken down and built, and new proteins are being built up at all times. Resistance training is performed for the purpose of building new muscle tissue to make you stronger. Muscle tissue is composed of a very high relative percentage of protein than other cells. This is because you can see in this figure, actin and myosin are both types of protein, and as you can see, they essentially compose the entire muscle tissue. So that's why you have to eat a lot of protein to increase your muscle mass. The dietary reference intake recommends that you eat 3.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight every day, and that can go up to 0.72 grams per pound if you are participating in high intensity resistance training, trying to build muscle mass. So here's a sample calculation chart for 100, 150, 200 pound individual. The minimum amount of protein that you should consume daily so that you meet your dietary protein needs. And then on the right is the maximum amount of protein you should eat to build muscle if you are participating in a lot of physical activity. So this is not an all or nothing thing, it's a range. So you should eat the amount of protein relative to the amount of physical activity you do, from minimal to very high. Eating protein in large excess is essentially wasteful, and we'll get to the reasons why that is coming up. Okay, so your body can use protein as an energy source, just like eating carbohydrates or sugar or fat. 1 gram of protein can produce roughly 4 calories. That's the same as 1 gram of carbohydrates. And 1 gram of fat can produce 9 calories, and 1 gram of alcohol can produce 7 calories. That's why alcoholic beverages can be so caloric, even though if they have minimal carbs. Okay, if you're calorie deficient or you eat too much protein at once, your body will use that protein for energy. So this is why it's really important when you're dieting and you're not eating, if you're eating a calorie deficit to try to lose weight, you need to make sure you're eating enough protein because your body can start using the protein that you have for energy if it's not meeting its energy needs. So you're going to want to increase the relative amount of protein that you're eating. Additionally, if you are weightlifting, you're trying to gain a lot of muscle mass, your body can only use 0.18 grams of protein per pound of body weight in a single meal to use to build muscle tissue or new proteins. So for example, if you're 100 pounds and you eat over 18 grams of protein in one meal, your body can only use 18 grams of protein to build new muscle or new protein. The rest it will just use for energy. Okay, so here's two tables of some high protein foods. The left is from Healthline, and the right are just foods that I had in my pantry, my fridge. I wanted to note that tofu and tempeh are both soy derivatives, and both have a very high protein content in only 3 ounces each, and very low calorie as well. So high percentage of protein in soy. Okay, so the reason why you should be careful about overeating protein for when you don't actually need to is because a lot of animal products are associated with chronic disease, such as heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, in particular red meat and processed meat. And for more information about these, I'll probably do another video later, but you can read How Not to Die by Dr. Michael McGregor, or you could check out his website, which I recommend. It's called nutritionfacts.org. Okay, so this chart is okay. I think it's not perfect, but it does a good job illustrating a couple points. On the bottom axis, this is your mortality risk from eating one additional serving of any of these listed foods per day. And so to the left is essentially increasing your chances of living longer, and then on the right is increasing your chances of dying. And then on the vertical axis, the relative environmental impact of the different foods in relation to one serving of vegetables. So you can see that all of the whole grain plant-based foods are both decrease your risk of mortality and are have less than 5 times the environmental impact of one serving of vegetables. Chicken, fish, and dairy also decrease your relative risk for mortality, although there's some debate over that, but they do have 15 times the environmental impact of a serving of vegetables. And then red meat, both processed and unprocessed, are detrimental to your mortality risk and to the environment at 50 times the environmental impact of vegetables. So this chart kind of, you can see, breaks all these foods into a couple different sections. You have in the bottom left are the whole plant foods that are both good for the environment and good for you. And then the healthier animal products have their pluses and minuses, but they're a little bit worse in one way or another than the whole plant-based foods. And then the processed and unprocessed red meat are just bad for everything. I want to say that again, this chart is not perfect. Like SSB stands for sugar sweetened beverages, so it's basically sodas. And to my knowledge, sodas are definitely worse for you than they appear on this chart. And okay, so here's another graph. This instead of comparing to a serving of vegetables, this actually compares these different animal and plant-based foods based on the amount of protein, based on each ton of protein. So you can tell that on a per protein basis, the plant-based foods are actually better for the environment in almost every case for each of these three metrics, being land use, water consumption, and emissions. And then this last table shows the environmental impact or the emissions per gram of protein created for different protein sources, and also the relative price per gram of protein for these different sources. Lastly, if you don't think that you can gain muscle and get really strong by being an elite athlete on a vegan or plant-based diet, you should watch the movie Game Changers. They have some of the best athletes in the world are eat an entirely plant-based diet. So here's my sources. Thank you guys very much for watching. Comment any suggestions for future videos. Thank you.